Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at the feature race at Woodbine on Saturday. It's the Grade 3 Valedictory on the Tapeta, and we're going 1.5 miles. Let's take a look at this field. The Woodbine Stakes program, Mike, rarely disappoints. We've got a full field in here. It's very competitive, and perhaps one of the keys to this race is you have several horses that are excellent on turf, switching to synthetic. Most notably, your morning line favorite, the speedy multimillionaire, Get Smokin'.
Yes, you're right, Dan. Surface is certainly going to come into play here. I guess, at least in the case of Get Smokin', they have run him on this surface once, and he actually ran pretty well on it. So we'll see. The bigger question to me is distance. Who wants to get this 1.5 miles and who doesn't?
We'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector. You don't expect the pace to be fast going 1.5 miles in North America, but in a race like this, there might not be any other alternative because Get Smokin', at least on turf, is a runaway speed, and Runaway Charlie has thus far shown a ton of early ability. Those two might go out there and they might hit early.
Yeah, it does seem like they both want to be forward. We'll see if one of them is going to be willing to concede early in this race, Dan. They have Runaway Charlie making the lead at the pace call. I guess that's certainly possible when you start picking through his running lines, especially that race 2 starts back, man. It was a mile on turf, but he won a fast pace that day.
Stone Age is quick, but not sure he's as fast as Get Smokin' or Runaway Charlie. I can see, however, Stanley House working out a nice trip in mid-pack.
That's the good news. The question's a big question for Stanley House, but the good news for him is he's just so tactical, Dan. You expect him to be in the right spot.
And if the pace is blazing, take a look at the 2. Junipero Serra, 20-1 on the morning line for Patrick Husband's Mark Cassie. This horse is making his stakes debut, and he has the fastest Timeform US late pace rating. Another horse that would benefit from a fast pace is the sharp number 1, Classic Motown, seen here winning a second level allowance at Woodbine, going 1.16 miles. His second start off of a short layoff. I like the way how he finished this race off, Mike, but this is a whole different ball game, stretching all the way out in distance.
Yeah, this might be the best race of his career here. So, stepping up off of this victory, maybe that's a good sign for him, Dan. Distance is obviously a huge question for him. As is the class of this race. I mean, it's at least worth pointing out this horse was claimed for $25,000 earlier this year.
Junipero Serra was dangled for a $40,000 tag 3 starts back, and he scored for Mark Cassie. They put him in a couple of second-level allowance races in his most recent starts, and he just has no early speed. He fell far behind the pace. He made up ground both times, and they've tried him a distance of ground in the past, and he's run pretty well.
Yeah, he has. I think that makes him interesting. It's interesting, too, that you talk about his running style, because you're right, Dan. They've sort of totally changed it up recently, because if you go back to some of his races last year, he was actually forward in his races, and he ran really well with that running style. I just remember, sort of being taken with him in some of those races last year. I thought he just ran really well several times, and he did it being part of the pace, and he did it coming from further out of it. So I do respect that about him. The most recent start, which I think we're going to look at a little bit later, I just kind of thought, I'm not going to say he ran great in there. I thought he got outmoved by the 1-2 finishers in there. It just left him with a little bit too much to do in the stretch.
The 3 is English Conqueror. This horse placed in the Grade 3 Singspiel 2 starts back, finishing ahead of Stone Age, who made the first run into sort of the teeth of the pace. Then English Conqueror came and got him, and then the True Closer, a really nice horse, Truly Quality, got English Conqueror. English Conqueror ran a third-level allowance last time out on the inner turf course. As usual, he sort of held back, made a wide bid, didn't finish as well, though, as Dancing in Denial, who's also in this race.
Yeah, another horse, it feels like he's going to need a trip in this race. Then he's probably better on the turf, but he's been okay on the synthetic surface. He's won on it before. His overall form, when they do run him on it, those races are fun. He didn't run that well in this race last year, but it was his final start of the campaign.
Get Smokin' is the number 4, and they have tried him on synthetic once in his career. He ran quite fine. He used his customary early speed to make the lead in the Eclipse, a distance that was probably too short for him. He likes to show speed in longer distance races, as he did in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic, a race that was just way too tough for him.
Yeah, I feel that's true. It was way too tough for him. I also do feel like it's at least fair to wonder if this horse isn't tailing off a little bit, because each of his last 2 starts have not been good, and he's obviously way better than that, Dan. So we'll just see if he can bounce back here. You've noted the Eclipse there, probably a little short for him. listen, you see a race where Palazzi is the winner, then you know where he came from. He came from left field to win that race. It went to closers. He set it doesn't look like a fast pace, but that was not a race where he wanted to be on the lead.
Roskar, the number 5, I think is a sleeper in this race. He won the 3rd Jewel of Canada's Triple Crown, the Breeders' Stakes, going a mile and a half on turf, but he also has proven synthetic form, and as a lightly raced 3-year-old, it's possible we've yet to see his best. His most recent start, a rallying 3rd in a second-level allowance race. He's the kind of horse with a versatile running style. If they go early, he can hang back and kick.
Yeah, listen, there's ways to make cases for this horse, too. It feels like he'll be a fair price in this race. He's won at the mile and a half. There's no standout figure on his card, Dan, but he might just be getting started here. He's very lightly raced with forward to go.
Stone Age is the number 6. This horse is a millionaire. He just missed in the Belmont Derby back in 2022. Wins have been few and far between for a horse that was actually second in the Breeders' Cup Turf to Rebels Romance in 2022. Synthetic, that's a big question mark for him. He's going to be chasing a fast pace, and I just think he's at his best when he absolutely controls things up front instead of being the one chasing.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of trip he can pull here, and we'll see if he, is able to run his very best race on the all-weather surface for whatever reason. And I'm not sure what it is, but as you've already sort of noted, he was a really good horse as a 3-year-old, and ever since he left the Aidan O'Brien barn, it just hasn't really worked out for him. We'll see what kind of trip he can pull. He's talented enough to win here if he runs a good race.
Dancing in Denial is sharp and he likes the distance. The question is he as good on synthetic as he is on the turf? Here's his most recent race, that 3rd level allowance where Dancing in Denial beats Stone Age, beats English Conqueror, made a 3-wide bid, got it done.
Yeah, listen, it's a good performance in his most recent start. Another horse who's going to come into this in really good form, Dan. He's another one. I think he's probably better on turf than he is on the all-weather, and he's going to want some pace in front of him, but he's supposed to get that.
Loose Wire is another lightly raced horse that has a lot of upside potential, and he has a beautiful pedigree. It looks like he's starting to come into his own for Kevin Attard. Here's his last race, 2nd level allowance, going a mile and a 16th. Loose Wire fell far behind the pace. He made a move on the turn to get into contention, and then he just grinds these horses down. When you look at his pedigree, his 2nd and 3rd dams both won the Queen's Plate. The 3rd dam, Dan Smartley, won the Breeders' Cup Distaff. There's a ton of pedigree here, and I have a feeling distance might be okay for him.
Yeah, I feel the same way about him. He ran well in here too, because we already talked about it. Junipero Serra was also in that race, and he just sort of got stuck inside while Loose Wire was out in the clear. But Loose Wire also made a little bit of an early move in there to get going, and so he sort of carried that run right through to the wire. This horse, we have not seen his best race yet, Dan. I'll be interested to see what kind of price he is, because it feels like he could really take money in here, and it's not like there aren't questions he still has to answer.
Collective Force is the 9, and unlike some of these, he's a horse that seems a lot more comfortable on synthetic than he does on turf. Case in point, his most recent race. This is a now winners of 2 Life, however, and he just gets the trip. He squeezes on through along the inside, and he just is better than these horses. Maybe the blinkers woke him up, Mike. He was 1 for 22 to start his career. With the blinkers, he seems a lot more focused, but it's a perfect trip against weaker horses.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he got a great trip in here. I like the way he's finished it off, and I don't think he's one of the horses I don't necessarily feel like you're terrified of the distance, Dan. They've run him in this race the last 2 years. He was second in it the last time they ran him in it. So I don't know. I feel like this is a horse who he's got a chance in this race to be sure. And that 15-1 on the morning line seems very fair to me.
Collective Force got through his non-2 condition. Runaway Charlie is still trying to do it. He finished well behind Collective Force last time out after battling for the lead. This is a speed horse, and the problem is you're facing horses like Get Smokin', quality speed horses. It looks like a very tough spot from a pace and class standpoint.
Yeah, don't like his running style against this field, to be sure. And I don't think he's good enough anyway.
Stanley House is a very honest horse. Distance is really no issue for him. They ran him in the autumn last time out, going a mile and an eighth. He utilized his tactical speed, but things just didn't really go right for him in the stretch. He's turning for home. He's sort of in between horses. It looks like he's got a little bit of run. There's just nowhere for him to go. The jock's looking for a seam. Is it inside? Is it outside? Well, we'll try to go outside. There's really nothing there. I think you could certainly excuse this performance, and his prior form is good.
Yeah, this is really tough luck for this horse. I mean, I guess when things are going bad for you, they're really going bad, because he certainly could have won this race. He's another one, he's got, I guess, the distance question to answer. Although, listen, you can go back to the Queen's Plate last year, the mile and a quarter. He ran really, really well in that race. And he shows up every single time, and it feels like he can get a better trip in here.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Valedictory at Woodbine on Saturday. Junipero Serra, fastest time form U.S. late pace rating, kicks on late and just needs a trip.
Don't know if he's good enough, Dan. I have a little thing for this horse, and I do feel like he ran better than it looks in that most recent start. He's got some on the go back going long that I thought were pretty good as well. I sort of went price hunting in here. I'll take a shot with the two.
Little concerned, as you mentioned, that Loose Wire might take too much money. I'm not sure I want to take any less than that morning line of 4-1, considering he's so lightly raced and he is stepping up in class, but it's pedigree plus potential and a very good barn. I think Dancing in Denial is going to run well. It seems like he's in form right now and he's going to get the right setup. I think he can do it on the synth. He's got to prove it, however. 2-8-11-4 for Mike, 8-7-6-3 for me, and the Valedictory, the feature at Woodbine on Saturday. Best of luck. Hey, let me give you a hot tip. If you liked the content that you've seen before, click on the like and subscribe button right here. And of course, for more DRF videos like Race of the Days, stakes previews, click on the videos right here.